Home alone on a rainy night. Chapter 1. The house and the rain. It started with the rain. A slow, steady drizzle at first, just soft enough to lull someone into thinking it would pass quickly. But it didn't. The clouds were heavy that night, thicker than usual. They clung to the sky like smoke, refusing to move. I was alone in the house. I usually was. I'd only just moved in 3 weeks ago and hadn't had time to meet anyone around. Then again, there wasn't really anyone to meet. The closest house was about a 5-minute walk down the road, hidden behind trees so thick they looked like a wall in the dark. I was renting the place from some old guy I found through a classified ad. He didn't say much, just handed me the keys and warned me to keep the windows locked at night. I assumed it was a small-town thing. You know, people being cautious for no reason. The house itself was nothing fancy, just a one-story cottage-style home with creaky floors and a smell of old wood and rain-soaked leaves. But it was mine, or at least mine until the 6-month lease ran out. I liked the idea of being alone. I liked the quiet. At least, I thought I did. That night was a Friday. I'd had a long week at work. Lots of deadlines, lots of small talk with coworkers I didn't care about. All I wanted was to unwind. Maybe play a few games, rewatch a movie or two, order something greasy and unhealthy, and go to bed late. Around 7 p.m., the rain started tapping at the windows like little fingers. I was in the kitchen making noodles when the lights flickered. Just once. Not enough to set off alarm bells, but enough to make me glance up. The microwave reset. The fridge hummed. I shrugged it off. I took my food into the living room and slouched onto the old couch that came with the house. I hadn't bought much furniture yet. Just the basics. The landlord said I could use anything that was already in the place, though most of it looked like it had been there since the 80s. The rain got louder. I turned up the volume on the TV. That's when I noticed something strange. The tree outside. It was tall, taller than the roof, and stood just a few feet from the front window. During the day, it didn't seem that strange. But at night, it looked like it was leaning in, watching. Maybe it was the way the shadows moved. Maybe the wind. I couldn't tell. But the branches scraped gently against the glass, and the silhouette it cast on the curtain looked almost human. Almost. I remember thinking, I should cut that thing down. I didn't know why it bothered me so much. It was just a tree. But some part of me, some primitive part buried deep in my spine, kept whispering that the tree wasn't supposed to be there. Not that close. Not with arms that long. I shook it off, ate my food, played some games. By the time the clock hit 9, I was fully relaxed. The rain was louder, almost pounding now, but it was a comforting noise. White noise. The kind of sound that helps you fall asleep. Then my phone buzzed. I picked it up, expecting a notification, a spam text, or something from work. But it wasn't any of those. It was a message from an unknown number. No contact, no name, just 6 words. Don't open the door tonight. My stomach tightened. Not because I believed it, but because it was so specific. The kind of message that crawls under your skin. Not loud, not threatening, but wrong. I stared at the screen for a few seconds, then typed back, "Who is this?" No reply. I tried to call the number. It didn't ring, no dial tone, just silence. Then the signal bars vanished. No service. Huh, I muttered. I got up and checked the router. The lights were still on, blinking like normal. But my laptop couldn't connect to anything. No internet. The room felt colder. I looked at the window. The curtain was drawn, but I could see the outline of the tree. It was still there, still scraping, still watching. I told myself I was being paranoid. Probably a neighbor pulling a prank, or someone at work who got my number somehow. But when I sat back down to resume my game, I noticed something else. The game had closed, not paused, closed completely. The console was still on, but I was back at the home screen. I hadn't touched the controller. I hesitated. Then I heard it. A click, like a doorknob being tested. Software. Deliberate. I held my breath. Another click. From the back door this time. I stood up slowly. The room was dead quiet, aside from the rain. I walked to the hallway, grabbed the flashlight I kept near the pantry, and moved toward the front door. I peeked through the peephole. Nothing. Just rain and that goddamn tree. I turned to check the back door, and that's when I heard it. 3 knocks. Clear. Steady. Close. Home alone on a rainy night. Chapter 2. The knock 3 knocks. Deliberate. Rhythmic. Slow. Knock. 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 It didn't sound like someone asking to come in. It sounded like someone testing something. Testing if I'd respond. If I was alone. If I was afraid. I was. I stood frozen in the hallway, flashlight still clutched in my hand, casting a weak glow on the floorboards. I didn't want to move. Part of me hoped I'd imagined it, that the rain had warped the sound. But then it came again. Knock. Knock. Knock! This time, from the back door. I turned my head so fast I nearly dropped the flashlight. How could someone get from the front door to the back in less than 5 seconds? There was no path, no porch, just mud and trees behind the house. Unless there were 2 of them. Or something else, entirely. I tried to swallow, but my throat was dry. I moved slowly toward the kitchen, where the back door sat just past the fridge. The blinds were closed. I couldn't see anything, but I could feel it. Something was right on the other side. I pressed my ear to the wood. Silence. Then, breathing. Not deep, not heavy, shallow. As if whoever or whatever was standing there didn't need to breathe much at all. I backed away and locked the door. Twice. Then I turned around. Knock, knock, knock. Front door again. It was playing with me. I ran to the window next to the front door, careful not to touch the curtain. I slid a single finger between the folds and peeked out. There was nobody there, but the tree was closer than I remembered. It wasn't just leaning toward the house anymore. It was almost touching it. Its long, wet branches were brushing against the roof now, like it was trying to listen. I stepped back from the window. I didn't like this, not at all. I went room to room, locking every door, checking every window. Even the small bathroom window I never used. Every curtain closed, every light off. The house was dark now, except for the soft flicker of my flashlight beam and the occasional flash of lightning outside. I checked the time. 10:42 p.m. Still early. Too early for this to be a nightmare. Too early to call it a coincidence. I sat down on the couch, my back to the wall, eyes fixed on the hallway. Then the doorknob jiggled. Just once. I stood up slowly, heart pounding in my ears. Another jiggle, harder this time, like someone was getting frustrated. Then came the knock again, but not at the front, not at the back. This time, it came from the bedroom window. Knock, knock, knock. I froze. That window faced the backyard. There was no porch, no platform, nothing to stand on. It was at least 8 feet off the ground. How the hell was someone knocking on it? I crept to the hallway and turned toward the bedroom. The door was still open from earlier. I approached it slowly, carefully, trying not to make a sound, but the floorboards groaned under my feet. Another knock, louder, angrier. I flicked off the flashlight and slipped into the room, letting my eyes adjust to the dark. Lightning lit up the room for a split second. And in that second, I saw it. A shape, pressed up against the glass from the outside. Not a face, not a person, just a shape. Like someone had cut a person-shaped hole out of the storm and glued it to the window. It didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't breathe. The lightning faded, and the room went black again. I backed out of the room and shut the door behind me. Hard. I didn't care how loud it was. I didn't want to see that thing again. I grabbed my phone. No signal. Of course. I thought about driving into town, but I'd have to go outside, through the rain, through the woods, past the tree. And I suddenly realized something that chilled me to the bone. I never heard the gate open. There's an old metal gate at the end of the driveway. It squeaks so loud, even the wind can't move it without waking the whole forest. But tonight, I hadn't heard a thing. Whoever, or whatever was at my door, hadn't used the gate. They didn't need to. Tap. A soft sound this time. I turned my head sharply. Tap, tap, tap. This time, it wasn't a knock. It was a copy of a knock. A bad one. Like someone, or something, was trying to imitate a sound it didn't fully understand. Trying to blend in. Then, from just outside the living room window, I heard my own voice. My exact voice. Calm. Emotionless. Hollow. Hey, it's me. Open the door. My knees gave out. I dropped to the floor. It didn't say my name, didn't ask if I was okay. Just that phrase, repeated. Again. Hey, it's me. Open the door. Hey, it's me. Open the door. Over and over, like it was practicing. I didn't move, didn't breathe, just listened. Eventually, the voice stopped, and the rain got louder. Chapter 3, A Voice That Isn't Mine. I must have sat on the floor for at least 10 minutes, maybe more. The voice, my voice, had stopped, but the silence it left behind was worse. It was thick, tense, not empty, but expectant, like something out there was waiting, listening, smiling. I wanted to believe this was just a dream, a really vivid, messed-up dream brought on by stress and too many instant noodles. But I never lucid dreamed. Not like this. Not this real. My phone was still dead. No signal, no Wi-Fi. I checked the power. The lights wouldn't turn on, but the outlet near the TV still worked. The little red LED on the power strip glowed steadily. That's when I noticed something I hadn't seen before. The TV was on. Muted. Black screen. Just a faint flicker in the top right corner. I hadn't turned it on. I approached slowly, remote in hand. The power button didn't work. Neither did the volume, or source, or anything else. Just that faint flicker, almost like static. But slower, like something crawling across the pixels. Then, the screen changed. It showed a live feed of the living room. From above, as if something was watching me from the ceiling. I stared at the screen, looked up. Nothing. Just the old wooden ceiling beams, dark and wet with moisture from the storm. I looked back at the screen. Now the feed showed the kitchen, empty. Then the hallway. Then the bedroom. Each view flickered slowly, like security cameras switching channels. But I hadn't installed any cameras. I'd never owned a security system in my life. I took a step back, and the screen went black. Then a faint whisper. I see you. I dropped the remote. The sound hadn't come from the TV. It had come from behind me. I spun around. No one there. But the hallway was darker than it should have been. as if the light itself was being absorbed by something I couldn't see. I backed toward the wall, eyes scanning the shadows. I thought about grabbing the bat I kept under the bed, but that meant going back into the bedroom, the window bedroom. No chance. I stayed still, waiting for something to happen. Anything. A noise, a movement, a change in pressure. Instead, the house shifted. That's the only way I can describe it. Like the whole building breathed in. The walls creaked, the floorboards tightened underfoot, and the air went cold. Not just cold, wrong. And then, the pictures moved. There were only 2 framed photos in the living room, left by whoever lived here last. Generic countryside landscapes, nothing special. But they both tilted at the same time. Not from a draft, not randomly, at the same exact angle. Like they were listening too. I couldn't take it anymore. I ran to the kitchen, slammed the drawer open, and pulled out the biggest knife I could find. It wasn't sharp, it wasn't heavy, but it was something. It made me feel like I had a say in this. That's when I noticed it. The front door was unlocked. I know I locked it. I checked it twice. I heard the bolt click, but now it hung just slightly open. A sliver of black beyond it, where the rain fell harder than ever. I approached it slowly. The doorknob was wet. So were the footprints on the floor. Bare. Human. Leading into the house. Not out. I followed them with my eyes, past the threshold, across the hallway, and straight into the closet near the bathroom. I didn't move. I just stared. The closet door was closed. I stood there for what felt like forever. Then, from inside the closet, I heard the sound of breathing, but not just one breath, 2, in sync, as if 2 people or 2 things were hiding inside, pressed against each other, waiting to be found. And then, the voice came again. But this time, not mine. It was a whisper, a woman's, high-pitched, crooked, like someone trying to mimic what a human sounded like. Come closer. I stepped back. The closet door handle turned, not fast, not forceful, but softly. Like whoever was inside didn't want to scare me. Yet. I ran. I locked myself in the bathroom, sat with my back against the tub, knife still in my hand. I wanted to cry, but I couldn't even breathe properly. Then, the lights in the bathroom flickered. Once, twice, and then turned red. Not pink, not orange. Red. Like a warning. And in the mirror, I didn't see myself. I saw someone standing behind me. Chapter 4. The thing in the mirror. I blinked. The image was gone. The figure behind me. Gone. The red light. Gone. Just me, sitting alone in a flickering bathroom. But something was off. My reflection didn't move right. I tilted my head to the left. It hesitated before following. I raised my hand slowly. It twitched, then caught up. I reached forward and touched the cold surface of the mirror. It smiled. I didn't. I stumbled back, knocking over the trash bin. It clattered against the tile, breaking the silence like a gunshot. The reflection went still again, copying me perfectly now, mocking normalcy. I stared at myself, breathing heavily. Sweat beaded on my forehead despite the cold air. Maybe I was losing it. Maybe this was sleep deprivation or a psychotic break. Or maybe this house wasn't empty when I moved in. I stood up and pressed my ear against the door. Silence. Not even the sound of rain anymore. Just an empty void on the other side. I cracked the door open. The hallway was wrong. Longer than before. There were more doors. 7, maybe 8, stretching into the dark. But I only remembered 3. The bathroom, my bedroom, and the coat closet where I heard the breathing. This hallway wasn't mine. The wallpaper was peeling. The ceiling sagged. There was mold creeping across the corners like fingers. I took a step forward, and the floor squelched. I looked down. The wooden planks were wet, not just from water, thick, dark, and sticky. I backed into the bathroom, slammed the door shut, and locked it. I turned back to the mirror. There were two reflections now, me, and something just behind me. Again, its face was featureless, just a smooth canvas of flesh, no eyes, no mouth, but its body was shaped like mine, two-shaped, like it was wearing me as a suit. I spun around, but no one was there. My stomach twisted. I dropped the knife. The mirror whispered, not aloud, not in sound, but in thought. "You don't belong here. You were never alone. Let me in." My nose began to bleed, just a thin line of red dripping onto the white tile. The whisper grew louder. The door shook, hard. Then again, louder. Bang! Something was trying to get in. Bang! I grabbed the knife again. Bang! And then it stopped. Silence. Until the doorknob turned. But not like before. This wasn't slow or subtle. This was confident, entitled. Like whoever was on the other side knew they'd be let in. The lock clicked open. I didn't unlock it. I lunged forward and held the knob in place with all my weight. Something pulled. Strong. Slow. I screamed. No one heard. The mirror cracked. A hairline fracture right across my reflection's face. And then, something unbelievable. My reflection kept moving, even as I held still. It walked toward the edge of the mirror, toward the frame, and stepped out. Not through glass, through me. I felt it push past my chest like a gust of icy wind. The air turned stale. The lights buzzed and blinked out. And in the darkness, I heard my own voice whisper, inches from my ear. "Thanks for opening the door." The bathroom lights surged back on. The door swung wide open. No one was there. The hallway was back to normal. Short, quiet, dry. I stepped out, cautiously, knife still in hand. Every instinct told me this was a trick, that the house had reset the board. But something had changed. I could feel it in my bones, like my body wasn't quite mine anymore. The reflection was gone, and the rain had stopped. No sound, no wind, no crickets. Just a silence so complete, it hummed. That's when I saw it, on the living room table. A Polaroid photo, fresh, still curling at the edges. I picked it up with trembling hands. It was a picture of me, sleeping, from the end of my bed, taken last night. I live alone. I stared at the Polaroid, my body in the bed, eyes closed, mouth slightly open, completely vulnerable. The photo was still warm, freshly printed, but I hadn't used a Polaroid camera in years. I didn't even own one. I turned the photo over. A date was scribbled on the back. April 12th, 3:17 a.m. last night. At exactly 3:17, I'd been dreaming about a dripping faucet. One single drip echoing through an empty house. Now I wasn't so sure it had been a dream. I dropped the photo on the floor, and it landed face down with a sound louder than it should have made, like it didn't want to be touched again. I backed away slowly, knife still in hand. I needed to get out. Now I moved toward the front door, reached for the handle. Gone. The door was gone. Not shut, not locked, just not there. Only a blank wall in its place, smooth, seamless, as if the door had never existed. I stumbled back, chest tightening, brain fighting to keep up. I ran to the back door. Gone too. Every exit was now just part of the walls. No seams, no handles, no frames. The house was sealing itself. No, not sealing. Feeding. I turned toward the kitchen and noticed something even worse. The cabinets were wrong. Too many, too tall. Reaching higher than the ceiling should allow. their shapes twisted, stretched, almost organic. I opened one. It was empty, but not hollow. Inside was a tunnel, dark, breathing, lined with what looked like flesh. The air inside pulsed with heat, like something alive was on the other end, waiting to be crawled into. I slammed the door shut. Something behind me whispered, "You're inside me now." I turned. No one there, just the house, humming softly. I checked the walls. All my framed pictures were different now. No longer landscapes or generic art. They were all photos of me, hundreds of them, sleeping, eating, sitting on the toilet, brushing my teeth, staring at screens. Some of them from angles I couldn't explain, low to the floor, up in the corners of the room, inside the mirror. And in each one, I was never alone. There was always something behind me, not clearly visible, but there, a blur, a shadow, a reflection, a hand sometimes. One photo showed me brushing my teeth with a tall figure just outside the bathroom window in the middle of a rainstorm. I screamed, ripped every photo down, threw them into the sink and lit them on fire. The fire burned cold, blue flames, no smoke. As the photos shriveled, I heard something in the walls. Screaming, not mine, not human. Like the house was in pain. Or maybe it just didn't like me erasing the evidence. The flames went out by themselves. The ashes dissolved into black liquid and seeped down the drain. Gone. I turned back to the living room. A door was there again. But it wasn't the front door. It was smaller, older, made of rotting wood and black hinges. Something ancient. And it was ajar. A warm yellow light pulsed from within. And a voice, my voice, called out. "I'm in here." Not a request, not a cry for help. A statement. "I'm in here." The voice was layered, like mine overlaid with something older, deeper, less human. The TV turned on behind me, static. Then, a new feed. It was me, standing right where I was. But in the feed, I turned toward the strange door, even though I hadn't moved yet. Then, on the screen, I stepped into the room. But I hadn't. Yet. I looked at the screen, then at the door, then back. And now, on the TV, the room was empty. I was gone, and something else had stepped into frame. Something tall, featureless, wearing my skin. It smiled at the camera. Then it raised one hand and waved to me. Chapter 6. The room that wasn't there. I should have run. I should have turned around, grabbed the heaviest chair I could find, and smashed through a window, if windows even existed anymore. But I didn't. Something about the door pulled me in. Not curiosity, not even fear. Something deeper, like gravity. I stepped through. The light was warm, golden, comforting in a way that made me uneasy. The room was old, not dusty, not decayed, just old. Wallpaper with tiny faded flowers, a rocking chair, a grandfather clock ticking softly in the corner. There was no furniture except a small round table in the middle with one object on it, a journal. I approached it slowly. Its leather cover was cracked, weather-worn. On the front, etched faintly in gold, "Property of Elijah M. Rourke." I didn't know the name, or at least I didn't think I did, but when I touched the cover, a memory surfaced. Not a recent memory, not mine. A man, sitting in that rocking chair, tall, broad shoulders, smoking a pipe, watching someone sleep in the corner of the room, watching me sleep. I opened the journal. Inside were dozens of entries, all handwritten, all dated between 1968 and 1972. Most were incoherent, strange ramblings, feverish sketches of eyes, windows, mouths with too many teeth. And one phrase repeated, over and over again, "The house remembers." The house remakes. Then, a final entry. I thought I could keep it asleep. I was wrong. It wants a face. It wants mine. The page ended with a smear of blood and a partial print of a palm, too large to be human. The journal slipped from my hands. I turned to leave, but the door was gone, not shut, erased. The walls of the room began to pulse, slowly expanding and contracting, breathing. A low hum filled the air, vibrating in my teeth. Then came the static again, but not from a screen, from the walls themselves. I placed my hand against one. It buzzed beneath my fingers, and suddenly, I was somewhere else. Not physically, not completely, like my mind had been pulled through a crack and poured into someone else's life. I was in a kitchen, old-fashioned. Dim and soys smelled like burning toast. A woman stood at the stove, her back to me, hair tied in a neat braid. She was humming. I tried to move, but I had no body, no form, just a floating awareness. Then the woman spoke. "Elijah, stop standing there like a ghost. Come eat before it gets cold." I tried to answer, but I had no mouth. Suddenly, she turned. Her face. It wasn't a face. It was mine, my eyes, my skin, but stretched, wrong, like a bad copy, a too close imitation. And when she smiled, her teeth were too many. Then I was back in the room, on the floor, breathing hard, nose bleeding again. The journal was open beside me on a new page. There was fresh writing, in my handwriting. "You're next." My phone buzzed. I hadn't heard it in hours. I pulled it from my pocket. Still no signal, no internet. But one new notification, a voice memo. It was labeled 3:17 a.m. Entry begins. Hands shaking, I pressed play. Static, then breathing. Then, my voice. I found it. The room, the origin. If I disappear, no, when I disappear, burn the house, salt the ground, don't listen to it. It's not a ghost. It's a memory that eats. And it's hungry again. A long pause, then, oh God, it just smiled. The recording ended. The lights in the room turned blue. Then off. And a voice, deep, wet, echoing, spoke from every wall at once. "You wear him well." Distance. I stepped out onto the porch. Perfect weather. But the bird song looped. Exactly the same chirps, over and over, like a background track. I turned my head slowly and saw the neighbor across the street, Mr. Halbert. I'd known him for years. He was watering his lawn, only he wasn't moving. The water ran, the hose sprayed, but his body was frozen, mid-motion, his face blank, eyes wide open, like he was waiting for something. I blinked, and he waved. Not a normal wave, a perfect copy of the wave I'd seen on the TV. Same angle, same speed, too smooth, like something remembered the gesture and was trying to mimic it. I went back inside, heart racing. My phone buzzed, a new notification. Reminder, basement access, 3:17 p.m. I never set that reminder. I didn't even know you could label reminders that way. I tried to delete it, couldn't. It pulsed on the screen like it was alive. I threw the phone on the couch and sat down, tried to breathe, tried to focus. Then I noticed the photos on the wall. I didn't have many, just two. A photo of me and my sister when we were kids, and one of me in college, at graduation. But now, the second photo was different. Same pose, same gown. Only the person beside me was blurry, and their face started to sharpen. Right before my eyes, becoming clearer, becoming mine. Two versions of me in the same photo. One smiling, the other looking straight at me, dead-eyed. And behind both of us, in the crowd, that tall, pale figure again, The one I'd seen in the bathroom reflection. Watching. Always watching. I backed away from the photo. It fell off the wall and shattered. And in the broken glass, I saw dozens of faces. All mine. All wrong. And every one of them whispered at once, "You're almost ready." I didn't want to stay in the house. I grabbed my keys, slipped on my jacket, and headed for the door. No more mirrors. No more voice memos. No more 317. I just needed to leave. But when I stepped outside, the sky glitched. Not a figure of speech. It flickered. 1 second, cloudy and gray. Next second, clear blue. Back again. Over and over. And the people. The street was full now. Neighbors walking dogs, kids playing, someone mowing their lawn. But their movements were wrong. Too synced. They all turned their heads at the same time. All waved at the same time. All smiled at the same time. And every single smile was mine. Identical. Same angle. Same dimples. Even the kids. Especially the kids. I backed up into the house and slammed the door shut. Locked it. Then bolted it. Then pushed a chair under the handle. This wasn't real. Couldn't be. I went to my bookshelf, tore down the old photo albums, flipped through pages, fast, frantic. Birthdays, vacations, school trips, all normal, until the last page. Someone had added a new photo, same house, same living room, but the couch was empty, and written beneath it, in neat cursive, "Thank you for letting me try you on." I threw the book across the room. My hands were shaking. Then I noticed the walls, covered in small scribbles, faint, like pencil marks, almost hidden under the paint. I leaned in closer. Words, dozens of them, scratched over and over like someone had gone mad. "Let me out. You are not you. The house is trying to be born. It learns from the skin." I stepped back. My phone buzzed again, this time a photo message. No number, just the image, a screenshot of my front door, from the outside. I was standing there in the photo, smiling, waving, wearing the same clothes I had on now. Only, I hadn't been outside. Not like that. I opened the camera app, flipped to the front-facing lens, and what looked back at me was perfect. Too perfect. A symmetrical face, eyes just a little too shiny, skin without a pore, no scar, no fatigue, a copy, polished and clean. I touched my cheek. It felt warm, too warm. And then the camera flickered and showed someone behind me. I spun around. Nothing. But I heard the door creak open, from upstairs. My bedroom door. I hadn't left it open. Slowly, I moved up the steps. Each one groaned under my weight. The hallway light buzzed, flickered, then stayed on. The door was open just a crack, enough to see a sliver of shadow moving inside. I pushed it gently. The room was empty, but the mirror above my dresser had changed again. Now it didn't reflect me at all. It showed the basement, the altar, and the skin suit. Only this time, it was standing, moving, looking straight up at the mirror, straight at me, and mouthing one word: trade. Chapter 9. The Trade. I don't remember going to sleep, but I remember waking up, not in my bed, not even in the house. I was on the ceiling, looking down, at myself, sleeping peacefully, breathing slow, chest rising and falling. Only it wasn't me. It looked like me, moved like me, even dreamed like me. But I knew. Somehow, I wasn't in there anymore. I screamed, but no sound came out. My reflection didn't flinch. He just turned in his sleep and smiled. When I blinked again, I was in the hallway. But everything was wrong. The walls were breathing, not metaphorically, literally expanding and contracting. The photos on the wall all showed versions of me, smiling with different families. Wives I didn't know, kids I'd never met, and behind every happy scene, that pale, faceless shape, closer in each one, watching, always watching. I tried to run, but my legs wouldn't move the way I wanted. They dragged, stiff, like I wasn't used to them. I looked down and saw my feet had melted into the carpet, thin strands of flesh tethering me to the floor. I ripped free. It hurt, but I ran anyway. Ran through the kitchen, through the living room, tried to open the front door. It opened to another hallway. The same hallway, just darker. Same photos, except this time, the eyes were scratched out. Every version of me, blind. I turned and ran the other way, into the basement. Yes, it was back again. Yes, I knew what waited. But it was the only place that felt real. I reached the bottom, and everything had changed. It was no longer a basement. It was a mirror maze. Every wall reflected a different version of me. Angry, sobbing, screaming, begging, bleeding, and one mirror, empty. I stepped closer. That one didn't reflect anything, just endless black. And then, a hand reached out. My hand, but it was rotting. Fingernails cracked, skin gray, and it grabbed me, pulled me through. On the other side, everything was silent. Gray skies, no time, no sound, a place between places, the holding room. I wasn't alone. They were all here. The others, the previous versions, the failed copies, every tenant the house had tried to wear. They sat still. Some mumbled, some rocked back and forth, but most had no mouths, no eyes, just skin, waiting. I wanted to scream, and then I heard his voice. "You weren't supposed to wake up." I turned. It was me, standing tall, confident, wearing my clothes, smiling the perfect smile. "You were a good mold, one of the better ones. But you just had to look in the mirror, didn't you?" He took a step closer. "Don't worry. I'll be careful with your life. I've already made a few improvements." He waved his hand, and a screen appeared in midair. It showed him, out there, in the real world, laughing with friends, kissing someone I didn't know, getting promoted, living the life I was supposed to. "You gave it up," he whispered. "All I did was take what you left behind." I lunged at him. My hands passed through. He wasn't here. He never was. Just a ghost of what I used to be. And then the holding room began to shift. The others stood up, faces blank, walking toward me, one by one. "Join us," they whispered. "You're part of the house now." Chapter 10. The Signal. The holding room was silent, but the silence had weight. Like the air itself was pressing against my skin. If I still had skin. I wasn't sure anymore. I had no shadow, no breath, no body, just awareness. But that was enough. Enough to feel the others. Enough to know their pain. Enough to know one terrifying truth. None of them had ever escaped. They had all tried, and they had all failed. But me? I remembered something they didn't. My name. I whispered it to myself. Again, and again, and again. Every time it stung, like saying something forbidden, but it grounded me. And in that grounding, I heard something. A crackle, a signal. Faint, like a radio tuned to the wrong station. But it was coming from somewhere deep inside the maze. A pulse, a flicker, like a dying frequency. And with it, a whisper. "There's still time." I ran, or at least I thought I did. You don't run the same way when you have no body. You push your will forward. A surge, like thought made physical. Corridors shifted around me, rooms stretched and melted, staircases curled like vines, doors led to places I'd never seen. But the signal was constant, pulling me in, guiding me. Then I saw it. A mirror, different from the rest. Cracked, flickering, and something was on the other side. A TV, faint glow, static humming, an old CRT flickering in an empty living room. My old living room, the one from the real world. And on the screen, my face. Not the fake me, not the doppelganger. Me, eyes terrified, lips moving, but no sound. I pressed my hand against the mirror. It burned, but I pushed harder. The surface began to ripple, then split open like wet paper. And I stepped through. Now I was in the static. Not the real world, but close. A signal between worlds. The broadcast layer, where ideas become images, where memories become messages. I hovered near the TV, felt its hunger, felt the connection. This was how the house spread, through signals, through screens, through stories. That's why it needed me, why it needed anyone. People watching, listening, letting it in. It couldn't cross over on its own. It needed a face, a voice. So I made a choice. I spoke. If you can hear this, turn it off. Don't trust the smile. Don't trust the voice. If you see yourself on the screen, run. It's not you. It's never been you. It wears you. And when it's done, you end up here. My voice rippled through the static, carried on unseen frequencies, maybe to a phone, maybe to a late-night radio, maybe to someone watching a video in the dark, just like I had. Then I felt it. The house knew. It had heard me. The static shook violently. Screens around me shattered. The signal pulsed with rage. And behind me, it came. A tall figure. No face. Just skin stretched smooth. Hands too long, arms too wide. Mouth where no mouth should be. It lunged. I screamed. But the signal held. My words still echoed, riding the frequency. Even as the static consumed me, I clung to one truth. Someone out there heard. And maybe that's all it takes. Just one person to listen. Just one to believe. Just one to stop it before it finds another face. Another voice. Another you. Chapter 11. The Viewer Journal Entry. October 29, 11:43 p.m. It started with a video, just a random YouTube suggestion. Black thumbnail. Title said, "Do not watch this alone." Of course, I clicked it. The screen flickered. White noise. Then a face. Mine. But I'd never recorded that. Never said those words. The mouth moved. The eyes stared through the lens. Then it spoke. If you can hear this, turn it off. Don't trust the smile. I laughed. Weird ARG, I figured. Creepy pasta stuff. But the moment I closed the video, something shifted. The walls of my apartment creaked, just once. The lights dimmed for half a second. And then came the mirror. I live in a studio. Just me, a couch, and a dusty old mirror my landlord never removed. It always gave me chills. I covered it with a towel. But now, the towel was on the floor. And the mirror? It showed my apartment. Same couch, same coffee table, same half-drunk Red Bull. But no me. I stood in front of it, clearly reflected in my phone camera. But the mirror was empty. Until it wasn't. A flicker. A blur. Then me, but wrong. Standing perfectly still. Wearing my clothes. Smiling a little too wide. And holding up a sign. I'm real. You're not. Journal entry. October 30th, 3:12 a.m. I haven't slept. Every time I close my eyes, I see static. Every screen in my apartment flickers at the same time. My phone takes photos on its own. And tonight I got a text. From my own number. The message read, "Nice place." I've been learning a lot. You feel small when you're watched, don't you? That's how he felt. Attached was a video. I hesitated. then played it. It showed a dark room, basement maybe, and a man screaming behind a flickering mirror. I recognized his voice. It was the guy from the first video, but this time he looked at me through the screen, eyes wide, blood on his hands. It's still alive. It's using me to get to you. Then static, then silence, and then my reflection, now closer to the glass, breathing, smiling, waiting. That was last night. Now things are worse. The reflection follows me. Shadows don't match my movements. Video calls show a version of me that I didn't record. Today, my best friend called and asked why I'd come to his house last night. I hadn't. He swore I stood outside his window, waving. I live 5 miles away, and I haven't left my apartment in 2 days. Journal entry, October 31st, 11:59 p.m. I think I'm losing the body. It speaks when I don't. It smiles when I cry. The mirror says I have 1 day left. I write this now with shaking hands, because the signal is spreading. It's not just me. I see it in the news. People claiming their reflections don't match. TVs turning on in the middle of the night. Voices heard through headphones that aren't connected. One headline read, "He woke up someone else." So if you're reading this, if you've seen the video, or heard the static, or felt like the mirror blinked after you did, please, don't talk to your reflection. Don't answer the screen when it says your name. And whatever you do, don't smile back. Chapter 12. The Door Inside Journal Entry, November 1st, 3:33 a.m. I figured it out. It doesn't live in the mirror, or the screen, or the static. It lives in the moment you stop trusting yourself. I stood in front of the mirror again. This time there was no reflection, only a dark hallway stretching out into infinity. And at the end of it, a door, wooden, old, no knob. But I knew it was the way in, the same one the others had tried to find, the one where he, the first man, the detective, the one trapped inside, had tried to reach out. And now, I was going in after him. Not to save him, not to save myself, but to end this. The hallway was narrow, too narrow. Walls pulsed with wet, rhythmic movement like I was walking down a throat. Whispers clung to the air. You're not real. You're a copy. You already lost. I pressed on. The door drew closer. It breathed. And when I touched it, it opened itself. Inside was the holding room. I knew it instantly, because I couldn't feel my hands anymore, or my heartbeat, or time. The floor was made of memories, shards of lives that had been lived and unlived. I saw faces in the walls, mouths moving with no sound, eyes wide open, watching forever. And in the center, a figure, slumped, barely breathing. I recognized him, the detective. His eyes locked onto mine. You made it. You still have time. I helped him sit up. His voice was paper thin. It feeds on identity, copies you, replaces you. But it needs something first. Permission. I shook my head. I never gave it permission. He smiled weakly. You watched. That was enough. Behind me, the air cracked. A new version of me stepped into the room. Perfect skin, straight posture, same clothes, same voice. Why fight this? You're weak. I can be better. Faster, smarter, more loved. Let go. I looked into his eyes and saw it. Hollow. No memory, no pain, just a perfect imitation. That's when I knew what to do. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the only thing that had weight left. My name, written on paper, shaking in my hand. The detective whispered, "Speak it." So I did, loud, with every ounce of will I had. My name is... The room shattered, mirrors cracked, Screens exploded. The false me screamed, face melting into static. The walls collapsed. The souls began to rise. Hundreds of them, all repeating their names. I am Daniel. I am Clara. I am Michael. I am real. Each voice peeled the room open wider. And then, light. I woke up, in my apartment. No mirror, no screens turned on. Just silence. The date, November 2nd. My face, tired, older. But mine. I walked to the window, saw people, normal, alive, free, and in the reflection of the glass. No one stood beside me. Journal entry, November 2nd, 9:09 p.m. It's gone, or hiding. Maybe we pushed it back for now, but if it ever comes again, remember your name and never give it a face. Epilogue. The last copy location, suburban home, 9:13 p.m. Rain taps gently against the windows. A warm glow from a TV screen spills across the carpet. A young boy, Eli, sits cross-legged with a bowl of popcorn. His parents are asleep upstairs. He's scrolling YouTube, cartoons, Minecraft, reaction videos. Then, a black thumbnail, no title, just static. He pauses, clicks. The video loads slowly. Then, playing Home Alone on a Rainy Night. True horror story. 1 hour. He leans forward. Rain outside intensifies. The video begins with a soft voice. If you can hear this, turn it off. The boy giggles, thinks it's fake, but something's off. The face on screen looks like him. Same hoodie, same haircut, same mole under the eye. He frowns, looks at his reflection in the TV. For a moment, there are two of him. Then the screen flickers. His popcorn falls to the floor. A single line appears. Welcome back. Copy 1007. Initializing. Cut to black. A distorted whisper echoes. It only takes one.